Hi, so this is the piece that I'm going to be discussing today. It's actually two pieces, and then I did make a third piece using a flipped over recycled picture frame. So I am going to include links below to all the materials that I used, and so I hope that you find that helpful. So the first thing you're going to do is come up with your design. I went ahead and just went with it. I didn't draw it out ahead of time, although I highly recommend doing so. That way you don't waste your materials or your time. And some of these pieces do take quite some time to finish. So, lesson learned, make sure you draw it out first. The first thing you want to do is build your base layers. So as you can see here, it's just a thin layer. I'm using celestial glass and I'm drizzling resin over the top. You don't want to flood this area, but you do want to make sure that your pieces are secured because you're going to start building on them as you work upwards. I'm using a syringe to make sure that my drizzling stays thin, and then I'm removing all of the strings that I pull across immediately so they don't solidify overnight. So this is where I'm at with the second and third layers. I'm sorry I missed the initial few videos. I am going to do a full tutorial on how to get to this point, but my video got damaged, so just hang in there. So this is about 3 or 4 layers, and what I'm doing right now is I'm adding in my crystal pieces. These are crystal quartz, and I'm putting them in groups of 3 to 5. Getting them to stand upright is a little bit difficult, so I did anchor them with hot glue before I started adding in my resin. So if you want to do that, make sure that you have them in place so they don't fall over. Keep in mind that this glass is sharp and it will cut you, so I highly recommend wearing gloves, which, as you can tell, I didn't. This is the piece that I was making inside the frame, and I'm hoping that it's going to end up looking like it's very 3D at the end. I did cover the bottoms of all of my pieces with painter's tape. That way I wasn't having to sand off any of the resin drips afterwards. I highly recommend doing so. If you don't, you're going to end up with a lot more work in the end than what you bargained for. So my pieces go from one side to the other side of the board, like a continuation. I am a fan of that look, but you don't have to. Of course, you can just put them all on one board, especially when you're just starting out and getting used to how things settle. And every material, all resin is very different. I highly recommend certain kinds of resin for certain kinds of work, so make sure you look at the description below for that information. So as I'm working my way, I'm working with different size materials. I'm using some silver nuggets in here. I'm using glitter, a couple different sizes of celestial glass, which is just fire glass. I used a broken chandelier, which I crushed up. And it gave it a great deal of sparkle, and I got it at a garage sale for $5, so that was a great steal. So as I'm building this up, I'm trying to decide just how high I want to go. Sometimes it's extremely impactful to have a lot of crystalline shine, and other times it will just look too gaudy. It's just lesson learned. So here's a side view of the crystals, which I definitely decided I liked. And I'm using a combination of silver, white, and a mixture of glitter in some of the pockets of white, just to add a nice sparkle from the distance. And my glitter is, as you can see, it's starting to come through the resin as I come upwards. It reacts to the heat, so it's a really neat effect to kind of see come to life. Here's a side picture of the crystal. Again, I really like it. I'm not quite sure if I'm loving the idea of the picture frame, although it was like 25 cents, so it's a great way to start if you're not prepared to go and cut and sand and prep your own boards. Don't use canvas, because the canvas will sag, and then you will be left with something that you just have to toss out, which is just heartbreaking. So after you have all your your layers down and you decided that you're not going to be adding any more layers, it's time for you to add in glitter layers if you're trying to get a little bit more of a popping effect. The trick to doing glitter layers is to find the right glitter consistency, otherwise your glitter will spread across your piece and then it's going to look muddied. So you want nice tight glitter lines. Some people just use part A with their glitter, and the issue with that is it doesn't harden. So keep in mind, if you do use just part A, which is the thicker of the resin, that it is not going to harden, it's going to stay sticky. So you do have to flood your resin a couple times with the part A and part B. I use part A and part B in my cup, and I let it sit 2 to 3 minutes to thicken. As you can see right here, I've gotten some lacing effect by using a certain type of resin along with a little glitter, which I really like the lacing effect in there. I think I'm going to be doing a few more pieces with it. So now I'm adding my glitter lines to my painting, and I'm going to see how they set overnight, and they will spread out a little bit. And after my glitter lines are down, then I'm going to take my permanent markers and go on the outside of the glitter lines just to define them a little bit more, give the design a little more oomph. My last thing that I will do to eat all of these pieces is I will add my Swarovski crystal. I used about 100 pieces for mine. Very difficult to put in because you don't want to add resin on top of them, so they need to be glued in. I use tweezers to hold mine in place, and then I glue them primarily along the top edges and around my standing crystal pieces. And the last thing I will do once everything is done is add one final flood coat just to make sure that there's no bubbles or inconsistencies in my leveling to my pieces. I will allow 24 to 48 hours to dry, and then I will let them sit in a somewhat temperature controlled room for about a week before I add any backing or framing to my pieces. So I hope you found that this video gives you some ideas. I will be creating many more, so please make sure you like and subscribe and follow. And if you have any questions, check below. I will include a link to my Amazon shopping cart. If you buy directly through my link, you will be supporting my channel. We do receive a small commission from the sales, so thank you very much. Otherwise, I will include links to other stores that sell products that I haven't been able to find on Amazon. And then while it's still garage sale season, or if it is in your area, make sure you check out garage sales. You can pick up some old vases, like I did, crystals, anything that you can crush. Be careful when you're crushing glass because the dust will go everywhere, so make sure you have like burlap, a couple layers of burlap underneath, and you can safely remove the glass from your driveway or patio.